Hey, what's up? My name is Asian Psycho, aka Sniper98. This video has been long overdue since the last one I did on this was last year, and I've had this video on the backlog, or the back burner, whatever you want to call it, of videos I wanted to make, and now is the perfect time to do it before Shinjuku comes out, so let's get started. Before we get started on talking about where to farm Ascension materials, I do want to emphasize that you're better off farming for materials during events, because then you'd be farming for both event currency, if there are any, and material drops at the same time. Plus, usually events have shops that always have materials that you can buy with said currencies, and they'll usually have something that you'd like to get. I'm not trying to say that free quest farming is totally useless, especially when we get future half AP free quest events. It's just that for the most part, events should mainly be enough for the average FGO player to stock up adequately, and so if you go out farming for materials and free quests, it should only be on natural AP and you shouldn't bother refilling for them, unless you're a whale and you don't care about inefficient refilling. Therefore, as I talk about each Ascension material that's available in the game up to Shinjuku for NA FGO, I'll do my best to pinpoint future events where you can easily farm each of the materials wherever I can. But of course, keep in mind that in talking about future events, my information can be inaccurate since, as someone who only plays NA FGO and not JP, I can't speak from experience, only from what spreadsheets say and what I've heard from other JP players. Please also keep in mind that certain servant interludes have guaranteed mat drops, so check the wiki to see which mat drops they give if you have those servant interludes available. And lastly, check the description of this video below to find links to spreadsheets that I'll use for this video. These sheets may fill in some details that I might not mention here because either I didn't look at the spreadsheets closely enough, or if I just forgot, because y'all know how forgetful I am, especially on stream anyway. But again, like before, please use them at your own risk. Starting with the bronze mats, hero proofs are up first. The three nodes with the highest drop percentages according to the drop sheet are Pirate Ship in Okeanis, Montgomery in America, and Dallas also in America, with Dallas having the highest at 67.9%. There's no point in farming Montgomery since it only drops proofs and dust, and if you wanted either of them, there are better nodes for both of them, and not to mention, it's the most AP expensive node out of the three that I mentioned. So if you want proofs, it's either between Pirate Ship or Dallas, and Pirate Ship, despite having a lower drop rate, is better overall, and here's why. The mobs at Pirate Ship have much less HP than the ones at Dallas, so that means that you can just face card them all to death with Berserkers as opposed to having to use MPs to farm. Not only is face carding faster, but it's something any FGO player can do free to play or whale. Not only that, but proofs are also in this year's NeroFest lotto at 3 proofs per box. So if you want to farm a lot of proofs at once, but you don't need to do it right away, you might as well just wait until NeroFest to farm boxes and then get a lot of proofs that way, which then invalidates any need for you to farm Dallas, because why farm there, we can just go hard on a lotto. And just for future proofing, no pun intended, DaVinci's reruns True Lotto and Gilfest next year both have proofs, so you'll always have a chance sometime in any given year, at least for the next 2 years, to farm up a lot of proofs at once, which makes farming for proofs unnatural AP, or refilling for them pretty unnecessary at the end of the day. TLDR, farm for proofs through lottos and don't even bother with the free quests unless you really need some right away or you're just burning AP. This is true for all bronze mats, in fact, with the exception of stingers, which haven't been featured in a lotto so far yet in JP. Evil Bones are up next. The two best nodes for them are Sandstorm Desert in Camelot and XG in Fuyuki, and they've got 64.1% and 63.6% drop rates respectively. XG has lower AP costs and has very easy mobs, but Sandstorm Desert also has a Sphinx that gives you a chance to also farm Scarabs in the case you need those too. The reason why I'm not recommending XC or some of the very low AP cost nodes in Fuyuki for bone farming is because they all have very low drop rates compared to the previous two nodes at sub 20%. In my experience, having higher drop rates from nodes that cost more AP to run is pretty much always better than farming low AP nodes and shitty drop rates when it comes to bronze mats like bones, since it's more likely for you to miss a 20% drop rate 3 times in a row than it is to hit a 60% drop rate once. Of course, for gold mats, this doesn't apply as much since gold mats are inherently very rare and any increase in drop rate is usually worth going for. For lotteries, DaVinci reruns Fake Lotto and next year's Christmas Lotto, the one with ruler kets, both have bones, so you'll have to wait quite a bit for both of them. Hopefully y'all farmed our last Christmas Lotto with Jailter to last you this whole year. Oh, and almost forgot, but Hunting Quests Round 3 will feature bones too, and if we keep up with JP's schedule, we should get them in late May. Next are fangs. The two best nodes for them are Deming in America and Eridu in Babylonia. Deming is probably the better node between the two since it's got less mobs that are weaker for a marginally worse drop rate at 62.1% and lower AP cost at 17 compared to Eridu's 65.8% and 21 AP cost. Plus, Rexlent said in Farmville once that Eridu is a big fat lie, so I guess if the world's biggest free-to-play says so, that's the end of that discussion. For Lottos, DaVinci True Lotto and next year's Christmas Lotto, again the one with ruler kits in it, both have fangs. So I guess if you need both fangs and bones, both of these events are perfect time to stock up on them. But again, you have to wait a year for them. Hunting Quests Round 3 also has fangs, which is combined with the Heart node where you fight both wyverns and demons in the same node. Void Dust is up next. A bit of trivia for you guys here, outside of certain events, Dust is the only bronze mat that drops in gold boxes. Charlotte in America is the undisputed best node at 63.8% because it features 4 Shadow Servants that all can drop Dust, while most other nodes only feature 1, maybe 2. For those of you whale enough to pull off Surf Dread memes, you can actually surf this node, but you'll more than likely need really high skill levels on everyone to make it work. If you can make it work though, it's pretty much comfy surfing all the way. For Lottos, DaVinci Fake Boxes and Guildfest both have Dust, so again you'll be waiting another year for those in case you missed last Christmas's Lotto. Next is Chains. The best node for them is Wastelands of Death in Camelot at 64.5%, but do note that Chains do drop pretty regularly in other Camelot nodes while you farm for things like Scarabs and Lamps, since the mindless dudes who drop Chains tend to show up in a lot of Camelot nodes. This means that you're actually free to farm Chains of whatever node you want in Camelot, since chain drop rates are pretty good all throughout. For Lottos, this year's Neurofest will be the last chance for you to farm Chains. After that, as of this video, no future JP Lotto has brought back Chains again, so if you need a lot of Chains and you missed last year's Neurofest, definitely prioritize this year's Neurofest so that you don't miss out. On to Stingers. Their best node is Field of Reeds at Babylonia at 62.2%. But, like Chains, their drop rates throughout Babylonia free quests are pretty consistent, so you can farm for Reeds while you farm for other mats like Lanugo and Scales. One tactic that Gotcha from Farmville and the subreddit likes doing is to farm the Northern Wall node so that he can farm for both Lanugo and Stingers at the same time, so in case you need both, which you probably do, you could do the same. Like I mentioned earlier, unfortunately there hasn't been a lottery in JP yet that includes Stingers. Maybe this year will be different, we'll see, but as of this video, we have to farm up Stingers the good old-fashioned way. That being said, word on the farming streets is that CCC events will have great Stinger nodes, so be ready for them in case that's true once CCC drops. Stingers are also in Hunting Quests Round 3, combined with Colcysts, or Gallstones as NA likes to call them. And finally, Fluids. This mat isn't actually released yet, at least not as of this video, but by the time this video comes out, Shinjuku is either already released or is about to, so I decided to include it here too anyway. Its best node is Shinjuku Station at 65%, but again, just like Stingers and Chains, you should be seeing a pattern here. Fluid drop rates are still pretty consistent throughout Shinjuku free quests, meaning that you can farm for fluids still pretty reliably while you farm for other things. In other words, you're probably going to be getting most of your fluids from DJing the Heart node. Don't lie to me, you know you're going to be farming for hearts the instant you're done with story quests. Oddly, fluids get featured in one lotto and not Stingers for whatever reason, and that's this year's Christmas with Santa Altera. So since it's your only chance to mass up fluids, make sure not to miss this Christmas. They also get featured in Hunting Quests Round 3, where they're combined with Scarabs. And that should cover all the bronze mats so far in the game, now onto silver mats. First up is Seeds. Their best node is Fallen Babylon in, obviously, Babylonia at 37.3%. But again, like the last several mats we discussed, Seeds can be farmed with similar rates throughout Babylonia free quests while you're farming other mats at the same time. This used to not be the case since in the past our best seed node was Bountiful Seeds and Okeanos, and I know what some of you think about that node by now. Thankfully, now that we have Babylonia, you should be able to have a lot of choices for seed farming when it comes to free quests, and there will be even more possible farming nodes with future singularities like Agartha, Shimosa, and Salem. There will be a lotto that has seeds, and that's this year's Christmas lotto again, so if you already were planning to go hard this Christmas, you'll be picking up a lot of seeds along the way too. They're also in Hunting Quests Round 3, where they're combined with Lanuga. The best node for lanterns is Kutha, or Kutha, whichever you prefer, in Babylonia, and it's got a 40.1% drop rate. The next best node is at the Mausoleum in Camelot at 32.4%, and every other known lantern node right now in NA is in the 20s or less, which means that unfortunately lanterns just don't have as good of a spread of similar drop rates throughout free quests compared to other mats like seeds, fluids, or stingers. We've had lanterns in previous lottos before, but we'll get one more lotto with lanterns in it, and again, that's this Christmas, so you should be getting the idea that this Christmas lotto is pretty stacked in case you didn't get it by now. The best node for crystals is Holy City, or Holy City Districts is what I think it's called in NA, in Camelot. It's a node where you can also farm for roots from the Spriggan at the end, and it's got a 27.3% drop rate. Don't bother with any of the other nodes right now in NA if you want crystals, since the drop rates for everything else plummets beneath 20%. This being said, in about May or June though, we'll get Agartha, or EOR2, and there will be a node with a 40.1% drop rate for crystals, so keep that in mind if you need to farm for them right away. As for lottos, last Christmas had crystals, but neither of our two lotto events this year do, so if you didn't farm a lot of crystals last Christmas, you're gonna be stuck waiting for a while. So that Agartha free quest that I mentioned just now is probably gonna be your main source of crystals for the second half of the year outside of event shops, if they have any. However, with next year, both the Da Vinci reruns True Lotto and next year's Christmas Lotto have crystals. The best node for Snake Eyes, or Snake Jewels if you want to be technical, is Bog in Babylonia at 24.2%. You can also do 40 AP caster dailies if you need caster cookies, since you have a 22.3% drop rate for Snake Eyes there too. However, like crystals, Agartha has the best Snake Eye node that has a 38% drop rate, so if for some reason you need a lot of Snake Eyes by this point, you might as well just wait until Agartha comes out to start farming those. Which you shouldn't, since last Christmas's lotto had Snake Eyes in them, and last I checked, most people aren't complaining about having a Snake Eye shortage. But speaking of lottos, if you did miss last Christmas and you still need more Snake Eyes, Da Vinci's reruns, Fake Lotto, and Guildfest both have Snake Eyes in them, but again, you'll have to wait another year for those. The best node we have for feathers right now is still in Bountiful Seas in Okeanos, which has a whopping 9.9% drop rate. In other words, not really worth it. In fact, you'd probably have a better shot at farming feathers in the Night class dailies, especially the 40 AP Archer daily. Again, with Agartha's release, we'll get a better feather node, at least two more in fact, with 20.7% and 30.1% drop rates. However, towards the end of this year, we'll get Salem, which has the best free quest drop rate for feathers at 35.8%. But if we take events into account, we've had a few really good opportunities to farm up feathers, namely the Prisma Ilia event that had an insane feather drop rate. I think it was like 60% or something like that, and drops like this was possible. And best of all, Prisma Ilia got a rerun recently in JP, which means that it'll come back for NA in like 2 years though. There are other events that have good feather drop rates if I recall correctly, such as CCC and Halloween Rerun, the one that has Cleo back on raid up this year. Just none as insane as Prisma Ilia though. Just keep your ears open for people talking about feather drops whenever there's an event going on, since a lot of people still need feathers, I think, and if there's a good feather node in an event, there's bound to be people talking about it. The best node for gears is Chicago in America with a 40.8% drop rate. However, this will change when Shinjuku releases and we'll get a slightly better node that's got a 45.7% drop rate instead. Unfortunately, last Neurofest was the last time gears showed up in a lotto, and so far as of this video they haven't come back yet in any future JP lotto. So you're gonna have to farm them the hard way through event nodes and shops, or the new Shinjuku gear node if you prefer that. The good news is that according to the event dropsheet spreadsheet, assuming that the information is accurate, Gouda 2, the second half of Summer 2, and Neurofest 3 all have about 80 AP per gear drop rates, so you do have a few events where gear drops aren't too bad, so you could try going for them as you farm event currency. The best node for pages is at Hyde Park at London with a 27.1% drop rate. However, like gears, this will change very soon with the release of Shinjuku, which has a node with a 30.7% drop rate, and it has a geyser that can drop Bloodstone Tears in case you need those too. So for those of you who hate Hyde Park with a fucking passion, just wait a little longer and you'll never have to farm there ever again. For lottos, both Neurofest 3 and Fake DaVinci Lotto have pages, so if you need pages, you can chill at Shinjuku until Neurofest, stock up on pages during Neurofest to last you the rest of the year, and then stock up one more time with DaVinci Lotto. The best node right now for homunculus babies is Southwark at London with a 30.4% drop rate, but at the end of the year with Salem, we'll get the best baby node at 42%. These two nodes are pretty much the two best nodes in the whole game, even in JP apparently, so you're pretty much stuck at Southwark until Salem shows up. The only lotto that has homunculus babies is this Christmas, the one that has fluids and seeds. You will definitely be seeing me degen hard on that lotto, since right now we don't know of any other lotto that brings babies back. The best node for shoes is Land of the Void in Camelot, which has a 44.9% drop rate, and is the best node even in JP, and the next best node is frickin' Caldera Island in Okeanos. And if you've ever tried farming for shoes there, you know how cancer that node is, so stick to Camelot. For lotteries, both DaVinci True Lottos and next year's Christmas have shoes, and Hunting Quest's Round 3 has shoes too. Unlike what a few people seem to think, Royal Castle is not the best place to farm Bond, but it is the best place to farm medals at 37.2%. Medals are restricted to free quests in Camelot only though, so in this case, what you see is what you get. Neurofest 3 is the last chance for you to farm medals through lottos as of our current clairvoyance levels, so if you just rolled MHXA or other Night of the Round servers that are all hungry for medals, wait until this year's Neurofest to go hard on it. And for our last silver mat, the best node for shells is the Observatory in Babylonia, which has a 41.4% drop rate, with the next best being Archipelago, the secret node in Okeanos, that's got a 29.2% drop rate. Not surprisingly, you can't farm shells through lotteries, and according to the event drop sheet, only the summer events have nodes where you can farm shells, though it wouldn't surprise me if this weren't the case, you could actually farm shells elsewhere. But in any case, if you need a lot of shells, but you don't want to sit at the observatory all day, you're kinda out of luck here. Now moving on to the gold mats. The best node for Talons is actually closely tied between Des Moines in America and in Babylonia, both having pretty much a 20% drop rate. Des Moines is probably better because it's got less enemies and less AP costs, but has 3 chimeras that show up, which makes multi-Talon drops possible, unlike Des Moines, so pick and choose between them. And later on, there will be another Talon node at Shinjuku, though it's a bit worse at 18.8%, and Agartha will have another one with 21%. As for events, Hunting Quest's Round 4 will feature Talons, but that's a year out still, so let's not count that for now. There are 20 Talons in the Gouda Rerun Shop, another 20 in the Onigashima Rerun Shop, another 20 in the Summer Rerun Part 2 Shop, another 20 in Neurofest 3 Shop, and another 20 in Halloween 3 Shop, for a total of 120 Talons that you can get just off event shops for this year. That's quite a lot, even by my standards, so if you're in no rush to farm Talons right away, event shops might be able to last you the whole year. Many events this year have Talon nodes, but from what the event drop sheet says, their rates don't seem too great, with maybe the exceptions of Gouda 2, Summer Rerun Part 1, and Halloween 3. So overall, just rely on shops for your Talon drops, and if you need any more, just burn that AP on Talon nodes in your free time. Oh boy, hearts. Up until now, we haven't had a heart node, but that'll change with Shinjuku, which will give us our first heart node at 12.3%. Most of you will probably be dumping that AP there since, you know, hearts and all that. We'll also get another slightly better heart node when Salem comes out, so until then, for most of you, Imperial Garden's gonna be home for the next 9 months, outside of events. As for events though, Hunting Quest's Round 3 will have hearts together with fangs, as previously mentioned. For event shops, you get 10 from Gouda Rerun, another 10 from Shomon Rerun, another 10 from Summer Rerun Part 2, another 10 from Halloween Rerun, another 10 from Christmas Rerun, and finally another 10 from Christmas 3, so that makes 70 hearts total from shops this year. While that's a lot of hearts, you probably noticed by now that a lot of servants need hearts, so chances are you might need more than that. Don't worry, because DaVinci Rerun next year will have the best heart node that the game's ever seen, so if you can hold out for one more year, you'll be in heart heaven once the caster node for that event opens up. As for other events, Onigashima Rerun, Summer Rerun Part 2, and Summer 2, both parts, all have decent or good heart nodes that should get you through the rest of the year until DaVinci Rerun shows up. The best free quest for scales is Nippur in Babylonia at 13.1%. Well, it's the only free quest where you can farm scales, so I guess it has to be the best. For events, our last Christmas Lotto's best farming node had a dragon on wave 2, so if you farmed the Lotto hard 2 months ago, you should have picked up quite a few scales when farming Lotto mats at the same time. In case you missed out on that though, event shops will give you 50 scales over the course of this year. 10 from Valentine's Rerun, which you should have already picked up by now, and 10 from CCC, 10 from Onigashima Rerun, 10 from Summer Rerun Part 1, and 10 from Christmas 2 Rerun. The only events where it seems like it's worth trying to farm for more scales are Summer Rerun Part 1 and Christmas 2 Rerun. Other than that, Hunting Quest Round 4 also has scales, but again, that's next year. The best free quest for Spirit Roots is Holy City, the same node where you can farm for crystals, and that has a 12.2% drop rate. There are other nodes for routes like Washington in America and Tower Top Floor in Shinjuku coming up, but those have 7.5% and 10.5% respectively, and at percentages this low, like I mentioned before, in my opinion, it's just better to go straight for higher drop rates instead. Event shops this year only give you 40 routes, 10 from Gouda 2, Summer Rerun Part 2, Halloween 3, and Christmas 2 Rerun. CCC apparently has a route node, but the spreadsheet doesn't have any data on it, so be on the lookout for CCC's drop rates. Other than that, there aren't any events that have sub 200 AP per route drop rates, and there aren't any hunting quests that I know of that feature routes, so farm them at your own risk during events. I'm not exactly sure how many horns you really need, but hey, in case you need them for whatever reason, the best node for them is East Village at Camelot at 17.2%, with the next best being Kearney at roughly 14.5%. We get 80 horns from event shops, 20 from each shop from CCC, Summer Rerun, Halloween 3, and Christmas 2 Rerun. As for farming horns from event nodes, it seems like only Summer Rerun Part 1 and next year's Da Vinci Rerun have decent rates, which is weird since it felt like last year's events gave out a lot of horns through both shops and farming nodes. Maybe DW thought that they'd given us too many opportunities to get horns and they realized that not a lot of servants really need horns anyway, so I guess they just don't care to give out horns anymore. Other than the ones in event shops, of course. The best node for Bloodstone Tears, or just Blood, is gonna be Shinjuku 2-Kom, or Kome, or however you want to say it, in, well, Shinjuku, with an 18.5% drop rate. This is also Shinjuku's page node, so you'll be farming both of them at once here if you need one or the other. Event shops give you a lot of blood this year, 120 in total in fact. You get 20 at a time from Rashomon Rerun, Onigashima Rerun, Summer 2 Part 2, Halloween 2 Rerun, Christmas 2 Rerun, and Christmas 3. Summer Rerun, Summer 2, and Christmas Rerun all seem to have pretty good blood drop rates, so if you need a lot of blood, it definitely seems like this year's a good chance to stock up. The best node for this mat that has a ton of different names, like Grease, Tallow, and Tar and shit, is Northern Hill at Babylonia with 17.9%, and for simplicity's sake, I'll just call it Tar. And later on with Agartha, we'll get another node that has 21.5%. Event shops give you 80 this year, 20 at a time from Valentine's Rerun, Summer Rerun Part 2, Summer 2 Part 1, and Halloween 2 Rerun, though it seems like most people don't really need this much tar, not even the free-to-plays. In case you somehow need more tar, Neurofest 3 evidently has the best drop rate at just 85 AP per tar drop, and other decent events for Arguda 2, Summer Rerun Part 1, Summer 2 Part 2, Halloween 2 Rerun, and Halloween 3. There are only 2 free quests where you can farm lamps even in JP, both of which are in Camelot. Dune of Dawn with 11.3% and Hidden Village with 15.6%. Hidden Village also happens to be the best bond farming free quest in the game, and given the comments on that one bond video that I made a while ago, it seems like y'all really love farming bonds, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say that Hidden Village is your premier lamp node until Salem comes out with a better one at 19.4%. Event shops give you 100 lamps over the course of the year, 20 at a time from Gouda 2, Summer Rerun Part 2, Summer 2 Part 2, Halloween 2 Rerun, and Christmas 3. Summer Rerun Part 2 and Christmas 2 Rerun both have decent nodes for lamp farming in case you need more. Like lamps, there are only 2 free quests where you can farm scarabs even in JP, and they're both in Camelot. Great Temple with 11.8% and Sandstorm Desert with 8.2%. I'd recommend Great Temple since you fight 2 Sphinxes, unlike the one at Sandstorm Desert, but it's up to you. Event shops only give you 50 scarabs for the year, 10 at a time from Gouda 2, Summer Rerun Part 1, Neurofest 3, Halloween 2 Rerun, and Christmas 2 Rerun. It looks like trying to farm more scarabs from event nodes isn't all that great either, unless of course the spreadsheet is throwing me for a loop, but scarabs will be part of Hunting Quest 3 along with fluids, so you'll be able to farm both at the same time during then. The best node for Lanugo is Blood for Andromeda with 19.1%. There are two other nodes in Babylonia that have Lanugo, Northern Wall and Black Cedar Forest. I mentioned earlier that Northern Wall isn't a bad choice for those of you who want to farm Stingers and Lanugo at the same time, so keep in mind that in case that's something you want to do too. Luckily, event shops give you 120 Lanugo over the course of the year, 20 at a time from Valentine's Rerun, CCC, Onigashima Rerun, Summer 2 Part 1, Halloween 3, and Christmas 3. Gouda 2 has a good Lanugo node, and Christmas 3 also has one too, though it's a little bit worse, and Hunting Quest 3 also features Lanugo alongside Seeds. There's only one free quest where you can farm Colcysts, or Gallstones as NA likes to call them, and that's Mount Ebby with a 12.4% drop rate. We'll get the second ever free quest where you can farm Gallstones when Shimosa releases, which has a marginally better drop rate at 12.9%. Event shops only give you 40 this year, 10 at a time from Valentine's Rerun, CCC, Summer 2 Part 2, and Christmas 3, and this sucks given how many Gallstones a lot of servants need from what I remember. Valentine's Rerun actually had a pretty good drop rate, assuming you could keep using Berserker molds, but by the time this video comes out, it's probably already long gone. But Gouda 2 and Christmas 3 both have decent drop rates, and Hunting Quest 3 also features them alongside Stingers. And finally, we've covered all the mats currently available in NA. Originally, I wanted to make a video that not only covered everything that this video did, but also went into detail about what kinds of farming teams that I think would be good for each of these mats and their respective best free quest nodes, like kind of what I did last year. But then I realized that that would take too goddamn long with how many mats we have in the game now, and with more still to come in the future. Plus, by this point the game's been out for long enough now that you should all know how to look up nodes and see what kinds of enemies you're going up against and figure out teams that can best farm them. If you've been playing this game to any degree, I would assume that you farmed this game before, so you should know how to do this. Or on second thought, actually, maybe not, if there was any need for me to make this video in the first place. One final thing that I want to mention here at the end of the video, which, surprise surprise, I forgot to mention earlier when I should have, is that this video doesn't account for point ladders like the ones in Gouda 1 or Rashomon, or other event farming systems that reward you with materials that aren't tied to event shops. So pay attention to those if there are events that have them to see what more you'll get out of them. Either way, hopefully this video has been able to put you guys on the right track in terms of what materials you can plan to farm for throughout the rest of this year. This means that I'll more than likely put out an updated version of this video for next year as well, once we have another year's worth of new mats to talk about. Thanks for watching, and until next time, deuces.